The Loaded Radio In Your Face Podcast.
Hey, it's Scott Penfold. This is another edition of the Loaded Radio In Your Face Podcast. And my guest on the podcast this week is none other than John Cooper, frontman for the band Skillet. Skillet, a great hard rock band coming out of Memphis, Tennessee, formed back in 1996. Features John with his wife, Corey Cooper, who plays rhythm guitar, keyboards, and backing vocals, along with Jen Ledger on drums and Seth Morrison on lead guitar. Now, the band's latest 10th studio album is called Unleashed. It's available now, and here's my recent talk with John Cooper.
You guys have been called the hardest working band in show business, and just looking at your tour schedule alone, I can see that. Where do you think that comes from, that ethic?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's funny, people do say it. I think that most all bands work really hard, but people ask me that all the time, and I guess that we're busy.
Yeah.
I think some of it came from just necessity. It was... We first started, we didn't have radio for a long, long time, probably like 10 years. And the only way to keep it going was to keep coming back to those cities over and over and create that kind of, that buzz. You got to see them live, one of those things. And I guess that we kind of created that kind of word of mouth because it would grow every year. And then we finally got lucky enough to get radio. And that's the biggest piece of the puzzle. When you get a radio hit, everything changes. Yeah. Everything's a lot easier. However, I always thought once we had a radio hit, it would get less busy, but it's not true.
No.
Then you get busier because people want you, which is
right.
wonderful. And then it's just been non-stop ever since, man.
You guys still touring in support of the Unleashed 10th studio album there. That alone just shows that the work ethic there. But you guys worked with Brian Howes, and as well you worked with Kevin Churko as well, who I'm a big fan of. As well Neil Avron and Seth Mosley. A lot of cooks in the kitchen for this one. How did that come about?
Yeah, it's funny because my mission on this record was to get less cooks in the kitchen.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
And it ended up with 3 different producers, but it felt like less cooks because what it was I think giving the band more of an opportunity to kind of do what we wanted to do, and it just ended up that I wanted to work with these producers. So it's not necessarily the producer angle that's hard for me. I like finding someone that I believe in, that I trust. And when they say, "Hey, John, that lyric is stupid," then I trust them and I rewrite it, rather than 3 other people from the label and management and some random radio guy they talk to that said, "I don't like the lyric." There's like 1,000 people. So I didn't expect that. But I went out to write with Kevin Churko. I'm a huge Churko fan.
Me too, man.
Oh, he's wicked,
awesome.
Right?
Great producer.
Yeah, did all the Five Finger records.
Yeah. In This Moment, Papa Roach.
Oh, yeah. So many great records. And I got hooked up with him, and I was like, I called him, and this is John from Skillet. I want to come write. And we ended up writing together, and everything he does sounds so good. I was like, I just don't know why I would take this to another producer. So why don't we just do it together? And he was down for it. So it actually kind of became fun, and we got to let people do some things they were good at. Churko's great at the metal stuff and the hard edge stuff, and it was just a lot of fun. Brian Howes, good old Canadian.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
we did our Comatose record together.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
which was 10 years ago, which is my favorite Skillet album. So he did most of the whole record. He did 7 tracks. And I was like, man, I really want to get back together. It was the magic, the mojo.
Yeah.
And I loved working with Brian, and we do well together.
How have you found that the fans have been reacting to the music when you've been performing it live?
Yeah, I think it's gone really well. These days it's so different because everything's so single driven and streaming driven. It's not as... It used to be like we got to make a great record and now
albums. Yeah, I miss that.
I miss that a ton.
So much, man.
Totally.
Yeah.
And everybody says this from maybe our generation. I might be a little older than you, but that you buy a record for the radio song and you didn't like track 8 and 9, but the more you listened to it, track 8 and 9 became your favorite on the record.
And that's how albums work, man. Yeah, exactly, right.
It's because things grow on you. It's like getting to know someone, and like this used to not be something I loved about this girl.
Yeah.
But the more I get to know, I really appreciate that we're different, and then it ends up becoming something you love.
Exactly.
Opposites attract. So I felt that way about music, and now it's not as much like that. So it's important that you come out, punching hard on the first track.
Yeah.
The singles and all that to say. It's a long answer to say yes. I think the fans like the record. They know the songs. They're singing the songs, and it's sold well. It's performed well, but. For me, the most important thing is getting an idea if the fans are digging it, and people social media, at the shows. People are singing it, and people aren't going to, waste their money if they're not liking it. Right. So, good news for us, but the best news is the fans are still with us, sticking with us and supporting us.
That's cool. Tell me about the song Stars.
Stars. Stars was you mentioned earlier producers. Seth Mosley produced this. Yep. Never thought we would do something together. I ended up meeting. We wrote some stuff, enjoyed it, and I was like, just produce it, because it's a different feel for Skillet. It's a ballad, but it's not really what I would call a power ballad. It's more atmospheric. It's almost a different take on the band, and I thought it was kind of cool. It's got a cool message, which is that a lot of us feel alone lots of times, sometimes, or we have felt that way. We have this feeling of no one in the universe is listening when I'm going through hard times. Right. And it's kind of a spiritual song. It's a song saying that you believe the sun's going to come up again tomorrow morning, and you believe the sun's going to go down tonight, and the world's going to be here, then if you can have faith in those big things, then maybe have faith in small things, like getting me through day to day. Right. When I feel alone, when I feel weak, when I can't pay the bills, my kids are acting crazy, that kind of thing.
Another great song, Back from the Dead. What can you tell me about that one?
Back from the Dead was, funny enough, one of the only, tongue-in-cheek songs we ever recorded.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's a great tune.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I knew it was catchy. Yeah. But I was thinking, it came from a place where I was kind of making fun of somebody, and the reason is this, because when our last record came out, there was all of this, rock is dead, rock is never coming back again, no one's going to buy records, you need to change your band, change your sound, and everybody was freaking out. I was thinking, what is, this promoter I was talking to, he was promoting a Skillet show that had sold really well, but he kept saying, what are you going to do in your next record? I was like, and he kept saying, you got to check out this band, listen to this, blah. And he kept shoving there's some alternative band, I don't even know who the band was, shoving it down my face, like, we just did a show with them, it's the new thing, man. And I got really annoyed, and finally I was like, dude, how many tickets did you sell? And he goes, we sold out. And I said, well, okay, like how many? And he said, well, it's only 400 capacity. And I said, 400? I said, man, we sold 2,000 tickets with you tonight. Why don't you tell them to sound like my band, Right. And so I got really kind of PO'd about it. Yeah. So I wrote this song called Back from the Dead that was kind of supposed to be funny, but after I wrote it, I was like, that's actually kind of catchy, and we demoed it, and my label liked it, and so it's kind of a funny story. That's
cool, man. That's cool. Now, you've said that the new album has elements of metal. You've said it has elements of pop. Was that a deliberate attempt to do something, or was it just sort of organically happen that way?
I think Skillet's music has always been a little that way, which is probably why it took us maybe a while to get to radio. I think that we were way too hard for pop radio and not quite hard enough for rock radio for a long time, Right. I don't think it was even that we weren't hard. I think it was that our lyrics were very different. When we came out, it was the late 90s, so it was a very, imagine having, people always say, Skillet's music's so uplifting, it makes me want to be a better person. And in 1997, nobody wanted to hear rock music that made you a better person. It was Limp Bizkit, and, it was all so dark and angry, and that's what was cool about that music, too. So Skillet always had a little bit of a different take. I think some of the pop sense of the melodies, that probably comes from my classical upbringing. I was raised in a very religious home. Couldn't listen to any music with drums, any music with guitars. It was classical or church music, and so some of that probably comes from that. And so in making the record, it was definitely going. Let's have those pop elements, and let's bring maybe some urban elements in too, and some of the way the melodies are, they're very rhythmic and stuff. Not rappy, but a little urban. And I just like to mix it up because people are listening to so many different kinds of music today and wanting to do something fresh, not the same old. And so, as my manager used to say, we throw it all in the skillet and cook it up.
There you go. Cook it all up, right? John, I can't thank you enough for your time, man. This has been awesome.
And there's my talk with John Cooper from Skillet, and a big thanks as well going out to John for taking the time to sit down with me backstage in Toronto. And as well, thanks going out to Warner Music Canada and you for tuning in. Tune in again next week for an all-new In Your Face podcast, courtesy of Loaded Radio. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter @Loaded Radio, and as well like us on Facebook under Loaded Radio Official. I'm Scott Penfold. We'll talk to you again next week.
Loaded.